Hello, entrepreneurs. Joe DiChiara with another amazing version of Joe DiChiara Presents How to Win at Business. And tonight's amazing episode is brought to you by Bedrock University. We have no COVID virus in our classrooms. Join now. Tuition is free for the time being while supplies last. We are also sponsored tonight with Love and Affection by Saduki.com. Handmade masks, Christmas stuff, gender reveal party things that if you need one on November 14th, like I did, you can order it from them, and it comes shipped in an unbelievable, loving package. And the company is owned and operated by my sister and my mom. So I highly recommend Saduki.com. And good evening, everyone. My name, like I said, is Joe DiChiara. If you don't know who I am, I suffer from entrepreneurism. I can't get enough of it. I talk about it all day, and I come on into your living rooms, I think, just about every day to try to let off my steam that I've built up over 35 years as a CPA, watching as and being almost helpless, feeling helpless as I've seen thousands of small business owners struggle just to survive. And if you know me, you know that I like to have fun, but this is no joking matter, folks. So tonight, what I am going to do, I do not have my PowerPoint presentation. I just want to talk to you eye to eye. I will be sharing a website with you because I have some amazing, amazing news. And it has to do with the fact that if you want to cut your taxes, you could start doing them now. You can't prepare your taxes now, but you could prepare to start cutting your taxes. And for me, it's a 365-day event. For most people, they think your taxes are done once a year. No, taxes take over my life. Every day is another. How do we deal with this tax law? What? And the bottom line, people, here's the good news. The biggest problem that entrepreneurs have in their business and when it comes to dealing with taxes is that everybody overcomplicates everything. The world, life, business is complicated enough. So my mission in life has become to try to simplify it. Maybe make it fun. And if it's simple and fun, then maybe you can make some money at it. And that's the whole idea. That's the path that I've created for myself. And I like to share because if I did it, anyone can do it. It's not rocket science. We make it rocket science, myself included. But the fact of the matter is that when you break down what needs to be done with every business on a fundamental level, it's really pretty simple. And when you could make those things that drive you crazy simple and not a problem anymore, think about how much happier you could be. Think about all the stress that you can, get rid of. If you're worrying about what you don't know, like, when you get a letter from the IRS, I can only imagine no, I don't have to imagine. I went through it. Getting a letter from the government and not knowing what it means. Knowing that it's not good, but, and then wondering, like, how bad is this? So I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of my ice cream truck story. Because it's a true story. It's soon to be made into a major motion picture. COVID put the whole project on hold, but we're making a movie about my ice cream truck, and it's going to be sort of like a Cheech and Chong thing, but I can't, I'm under legal, I can't talk about it. Anyway, summer before I graduated, I just realized that my thing isn't even plugged in. And the summer before I graduated, I decided I was going to go into business for real, and I leased an ice cream truck as a legitimate business. I signed paperwork, I leased a truck, the whole idea was to prove that I could be a successful entrepreneur. And I made, believe me, at that time, this was 1984, I made a good amount of cash. The statute of limitations has passed. So even though, I wanted to, anyway, made a lot of cash. I was happy, had a great last semester, and I was at the top of the world. I got a CPA job, and I'm on my way. And 6 months into my job, while I'm studying for the CPA exam, I get a letter from New York State with a big stamp on it. It says tax warrant. Now, I have no idea what this means, but I was making plans to cancel my vacation to go see my grandparents. I took out the yellow pages looking for tax attorneys because I didn't know what it was. And I was too embarrassed to ask one of the CPAs in the office I was working at. I honestly thought I was in trouble. And for three days, I thought my career was over. I thought that there was no way that I'll ever be a CPA, not with this hanging over me. And it turned out that I signed up as a sales tax vendor, and they just needed to know that, I was out of business. It was a, 2-month, 3-month gig, and that's it. When I signed the papers, I was on their radar, and they were like, "Hey, Joe, they're sending out signals to me." They probably sent other letters, and I didn't know what they were. Obviously, they sent probably forms. Maybe I moved. I don't know. But that tax warrant made it to me. Anyway, it was a simple solution to what I thought was a complicated problem. And it turns out that for some reason, a lot of people, a lot of professionals like to make things sound complicated when they're really not. They need to make them sound complicated so that they can justify how much they're charging you. And that's a sad fact that I learned over time, that I realized that there was something wrong with the picture. That we were, in our accounting firms that I had worked at before, it was all about, and this is again, I'm going to talk to, I'm going to identify who I am talking to. I'm talking about the smallest of small businesses, the micro businesses. And hello, Facebook user. I can't see your name. Thank you for chiming in. Listen, my head spins enough with things that other people think are simple, and like social media. I'm like, just tell me, give me a day and a time to do it, and what I'm supposed to do. I don't need all so that's why I love people like Haley Gray. She just said, "Hey, here's the tool. You buy it, you make it on. It goes on autopilot." And that's what I like to do with bookkeeping and accounting and taxes, because it's not rocket science. There's five things, 5 pieces of information on every accounting transaction that it has to appear on everyone. So there's only 5. One of them is the date. The date. One of them is, Who? A customer, vendor? Who are we doing this transaction with? The amount. That's three of them. Come on. This is what we're talking about. And now I don't care if, I've said this in the past, Apple Computer, when you break it down, they get the same five things. But the difference is they attach a lot of other stuff to it because they're a huge business. But to do their basic accounting, there's really only five pieces of information. So whether you have 5 transactions or 100, as long as you know where you got 5 columns, if you could put them into order, that's how we start doing tax planning, folks. It starts at the very transaction. And they call it an arm's length transaction. 2 people, 2 organizations have they exchange goods and services for money or trade. Okay, there's a transaction, something happens, something's exchanged. I go into the store, buy a lawnmower, I get the lawnmower, they get the cash. How is that transaction recorded on the tax return? So, if you want to go and start talking about accelerated depreciation, alternative minimum tax, Section 179 deductions, and all of that stuff, and passive activity loss rules, that's not for solopreneurs. That's not really for new business owners. That's at a whole different level. What I'm talking about for the startups, for the consultants, for the coaches, for the tutors, for the solopreneurs, it's very, very simple. I'm not saying it's easy. I never say that it's easy. But if you could break everything down to the simple, fundamentals of what has to be gathered and then put in order, now you have a shot at doing some tax planning. Now, in the olden days, in the good old days, before fax machines, before cell phones, before even computers, believe it or not, we did thousands and thousands of tax returns every year. One transaction at a time. We actually I had lead pencils. 0.7, that was my favorite. The 0.7 lead pencils. I had an eraser, and we had actual accounting paper, and we recorded every transaction by hand. And that was what we called write-up clients. And they were the smallest of small clients because they weren't big enough to have their own bookkeeper. So the way the formula worked was you go in, you meet with the client, you get their stuff, you're looking at every transaction, you're putting it in the right category, you add it up, you total everything, you reconcile it to the bank account. And back then there weren't a lot of credit cards. So it was simple. It was simple. Now, if you had a bigger client that actually could afford a bookkeeper, they would go into, accounts payable, accounts receivable, but very few clients, very few businesses ever even get to that level. But when you get to that level, you have no choice but to be already working with a firm, with a professional, with a CPA. So that's what I believe. My impression of the business world was that everybody, if they had a business, pretty much went to an accountant and they got this kind of service. And what would happen is at the end of part of the job was, once you total everything, you put it on. I'm not going to bore you with the accounting stuff, but the bottom line is at the end of the day, you went through the numbers with the client. So there was this communication. That was the good old days. And if I would have realized that they were good old days, maybe I would have enjoyed them a little bit more. But thinking back, because now in today's world, looking, comparing, I'll give you an idea. My sister sent me, or my cousin sent me this thing on Facebook, and I'm scared to do it. They said, find your first selfie that you showed on Facebook and then show one today and then put them side by side. So I'm thinking about, when I did accounting back then, it was simple. It was clear. It was, so everybody came in and they were basically corporations. So, and that was my impression. It turns out that today, most businesses are not incorporated. They're sole proprietors. And that's not even the topic that somehow I got onto that topic because that's all I've been talking about all week. But, the topic tonight really is about saving on your taxes. And the point I'm trying to make is that when in the past, the accountant trusted advisor relationship with the accountant had to do a constant back and forth on a, not on a one time a year basis. It was either on a monthly, or the very, very small clients might be on a quarterly basis. Very few clients came in at the end of the year. And if they did, it was because they weren't trained yet. They were newbies, or maybe they had a little tiny business and they did their own spreadsheet or something like that. But for the most part, and very, very few of them were ever sole proprietors. Very few Schedule Cs at the CPA level. Now today, I could realize. I said, well, to go to a CPA, it's not cheap. And if you don't know one, and you're starting a business, so this is where we are today, and this is why we have 25 million sole proprietors, unprepared, not able to do any tax planning because they just don't know. They don't have this information. So this is sort of like a public service announcement, if you want to call it that. So the way, if you really want to save money in taxes, it's got to be a system where you are prepared. So that scenario that I just laid out for you, where I went in and listed every single transaction, it still has to be done today. And not only does it have to be done, but you would think that it would be easier than it in the good old days, right? It's not easier. It's not easier because there are more platforms. There's more ways to pay people. I can get paid through my Wave apps, invoicing. I could get Stripe. I have clients that are getting paid from like 5 different places. Now, I got to know what's going on in those places because that's where the transactions are going on. And I'm at a disadvantage, and you are at a disadvantage if you're not aware of how this whole thing is working. So in the last episode, I said, the second step is to list your accounts. The first step was to get your tax returns, get familiar with them, compare them side by side, look for differences in revenue and expenses, and get an idea about the categories. Then what you want to do is figure out, am I using PayPal? What about things like Amazon? Now, Amazon isn't an account, but you got to know where to categorize things that are paid to Amazon. So I could buy a tent from Amazon, I could buy a birthday gift, or I could buy a computer that I'm going to use for business. That makes a difference. And if you're not prepared, if you're not doing the recording the transactions and looking at where you stand, yes, end of year accounting. We don't do it at the end of the year, and that's the point. What we do is we create an accounting system. When I say we, I mean, successful entrepreneurs. If you're not doing it, your chances of success have gone down dramatically. These are the fundamental things that people, that the time has proven again and again, that successful entrepreneurs know their numbers. Now, the good thing is you don't have to be an accountant. That was the QuickBooks lie. The QuickBooks Intuit told everybody that they could save money by doing their own bookkeeping. That didn't really work out too well. Okay, it's like the government saying that they're going to create jobs. Or, so the third step. So now you have all of these transactions. Hopefully by now you know what you're up against. It's, you got to know, okay, the end result is my tax return. You got to look at the past tax return and say, okay, it's like a vision board. It's like, okay, what is my next year taxes going to look like? And then we're going to gather the different sources. Like I said in the beginning, businesses used to have one bank account. That was it. And they wrote checks. Now we got stuff going. I'm writing my own thing. I would love to have one thing. But there's bills I can't pay electronically. So I actually still write checks out sometimes. I'll buy stuff through PayPal. I'll buy stuff with my credit card. I'm all over the place, just like most people. In fact, I'm probably even worse because, in my mind, I'm like, I got this on that. And honestly, I'm probably spending twice as much time. You're talking about it now. I think I got to hire my own bookkeeper. This is crazy. I'm doing my own bookkeeping and I tell other people not to do it. So yeah, this was good because I just figured something out, and it was worth my time tonight. But so let me give you the great news, because no longer do you have to write it. You can if you want. Actually, I don't even know if you could buy those old accounting spreadsheets and the general ledger stuff and. Yeah. So I don't know who you are. I'm going to go back after this. So yeah, I am. My mom. Okay. Here's the story. My mom was doing my bookkeeping. When I switched over to Wave Apps, she quit on me. I'm still heartbroken over it. She was my best, employee over the last 15 years. So now, and I didn't even realize. I said, well, if she's not, maybe I should have given her a better offer. I'll go back to mom. Anyway, so the good news is that now, because of technology, so technology made everything more complicated and faster, so it's even more confusing. But there is a tool, and if you're following me, you've seen this. If you're one of my clients, you're already using it. It's an amazing program, and here we go. I'm going to stop share. And I'm going to tell you what it is right now. It is called Wave Apps, and it is the most amazing, one of the most amazing business tools that I've ever come across. QuickBooks was great in the beginning, like when it first came out. And if they never changed it, it would have been like what Wave Apps is. Wave Apps is free. What it does is it connects directly to your bank account and your credit card accounts, like 95% of them that are out there. It does it seamlessly. It does it securely. And it just sucks all the transactions into your bookkeeping system. And that's what this is. This is a simple bookkeeping system. And because of the power, so Wave Apps is doing what QuickBooks was trying to do for years and couldn't. Having a simple import function. A simple import function. So in QuickBooks Online, if you're familiar with it, and if you like working with it, God bless you. I do have clients on QuickBooks Online. I would prefer, because they've outgrown Wave Apps. So Wave Apps is an entry-level bookkeeping program that works amazingly. And I don't have time to show it now, but if you go to my YouTube channel or PM me, I'd be glad to. I love this program because it's really changed the way that I do business. It's enabled me to be able to provide, bookkeeping, CFO, and accounting services for a fraction of what I used to have to charge. And this isn't, a pitch, because you can go onto Wave Apps right now. You don't need me to do it. You could set it up. I've done it in less than 4 minutes. I've set up a company and actually set up the invoice and was able to invoice a customer in less than 5 minutes. Now, if you've ever set up a business and tried to accept credit cards, you got to jump through hoops. So what it does in a nutshell, at the end, what Wave Apps does is it's brought in all the transactions. As an accountant, you want to verify that all those transactions actually went through the bank account or the credit card account. And how do you do that? You reconcile. Wave Apps as a way to reconcile that does it in an instant. And if you're familiar with what reconciling is, if you have 500 transactions, you have to go through every transaction one at a time. Not with Wave Apps. You just put the balance in, and if it matches, you're good to go. The last thing to do is to categorize everything. This program just eliminated 90% of the time that is spent on bookkeeping, and it's enabled you to be able to look at your profit and loss statement on a real-time basis at any time. I can go on to any of my clients right now and tell them exactly how much they've made to date. And by knowing that, I could plug the numbers in my tax program, and I could tell them right now if they owe money or don't owe money. Now, if they owe money, we still got 6 weeks to do something about it. And that is step 3 in how you could start cutting your taxes now. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Joe DeChara, CPA. God bless. I will be back again tomorrow with more amazing information. Thank you.